So, hello everyone. This is your Akash sir. Welcome to BioMedic Guruji channel. So today we will be discussing all the important questions from the first chapter, that is the living world. So we have already discussed this chapter in detail. Okay. So we have went NCERT line by line as per the NTA guidelines or NTA syllabus. We have completed the whole chapter. So after completion of every chapter, we will be having such a session wherein we will be discussing all the questions from that chapter. So if you completely solve these questions without any mistake, then you are rest assured that you will be doing very well with respect to this particular chapter. So all the questions, they are hand picked. Okay, so all the lines, NCERT line by lines, we have taken such questions that have the highest probability of appearing in the exam. Okay, so today we will solve first the PYQ series. So whatever the previous year questions were there, we will complete all the PYQs, and then we will be discussing all the questions, rest all probable questions that may appear in the exam. Okay, one thing that few of the students, you might say, sir, this is a very easy chapter. Okay, start something difficult. For all those who tend to say that this is an easy chapter, try doing 100 on 100, means if 100% or 100%, if any questions come from this chapter, then only you can say you're perfect. Okay, so never neglect any small chapter also. Okay, because any one question, okay, if you are having dream of achieving 360 on 360, you can never neglect any of the chapters, any of the concept in the NCERT. So what we have to do here is, what we'll be doing here is, we'll be solving these things, and as and when we go ahead, okay, with the syllabus, we'll be solving the other chapters as well. So we are starting with this one. Have patience and try to answer all the questions. Okay, I hope okay, you people are ready, and we'll begin. Okay, so the first, we'll be discussing all the PYQs that have appeared in NEET. Okay, some questions I have already as from this chapter the questions are very less, so I have also considered the AIPMT questions as well. Okay, All India Pre-Medical Test, from that time also I have taken few questions because those questions were really good. So we'll be starting. Okay, and I'm seeing that still most of you did not join, so those who are joining, do follow us. Okay, and we'll be starting with the first PYQ. Okay, this has appeared in 2013 Manipur paper, wherein they are asking x and y are the components of binomial nomenclature. This naming system was proposed by Z. So here in this question, they want you to find out x, y and z. Okay, x being a generic name and y being specific epithet. Who was the person who gave this? The person was Carolus Linnaeus. So if you find x, y, x being generic name, specific epithet, all these are correct. But okay, when you come to y, again you will find specific epithet and generic name. One thing you have to remember, they did not ask in order, so even these options will be correct. The last thing that you have to observe is the Carolus Linnaeus. Okay, he was the person. Now again you are finding two options for this particular thing, then you have to go with the x wala option. X, that is first name usually will be the generic name, the second component will be the specific epithet. So the answer will be option A. Okay, and then moving forward to the next question. Housefly belongs to dash family. Again, this was asked in 2013 Manipur paper. So Creepytidini, that's not an answer. That's not a family where we'll place housefly. Okay, Hominidae is the family. Absolutely correct. But it's a family for human beings. Okay, what is the scientific name for human beings? Homo sapiens. Okay, so but they are asking for housefly again. Okay, again this is not an family to which housefly belongs. Musidae is the family to which housefly belongs. The scientific name of Musidae is Musca domestica. Okay, underlining is very important as per the rules of binomial nomenclature. So the correct answer will be option D. Okay, next one. In the taxonomic categories, you have to remember, as we discussed, A is the first letter. So from smallest to largest we have to move. Smallest one, okay, ascending order of the animals. Then we have to go like from species, okay, the pointing is like this. Then species, genus, family, class will not come. Okay, species, genus, family, order, yes, absolutely. Class, phylum, kingdom, this is the correct answer, but we'll look for other options as well. Species, genus, order, okay, not order but family will be coming. Okay, then here species, genus, family, phylum will not be coming here. Okay, then the correct answer is option B. Then we'll go for the next question. Which one of the following belongs to family Musidae? As we discussed, Musidae is a family of housefly. Okay, so grasshopper is not the organism to that belongs to family Musidae. Cockroach is also not the family to which it belongs to Musidae. Housefly is the correct answer. Firefly again is not the correct option for this. Moving on to the next one. Which of the following is against the rules of ICBN? Okay, ICBN, International Code for Botanical Nomenclature. So we are talking with respect to, you have to remember that we are talking with respect to plants now. Okay, nomenclature with respect to plants. Generic and specific name, okay, they are asking against the rules, should be written starting with the small letters. Okay, you should be writing generic as well as specific name with small letters. No, not at all. Handwritten scientific names should be underlined. So this one is correct. Okay, every species should have a generic name and specific epithet, absolutely correct. Okay, scientific names are in Latin and should be italicized. Italicized means writing in the slant form. So all these three options are correct. The first option is incorrect. Why it is incorrect? Because generic name should start with the first letter. Okay, first letter of generic name should be capital. Whereas for specific name or specific epithet, the first letter should be small. But they are saying both generic and specific names, they start with small letters, which is incorrect. Okay, next question. Select the correctly written scientific name of mango which was first described by Carolus Linnaeus. Okay, Carolus Linnaeus was the person who introduced the binomial nomenclature. Okay, then according to him, according to the rules of binomial nomenclature, we have to follow. So it is having two components, which is absolutely correct. The first letter of generic name should be capital, it is capital. Then the first letter of species, it should be small. Okay, here it is large, so we will eliminate this one. We are going very slow for those who are first or new to this concept, so we are going very slow. If you know the answer, that's very good. Okay, then we are left with the three options. Then you have to see the author's name in abbreviated form. Okay, now if these were options were not given, this option was absolutely correct, but here there is no author name, whereas in other option there is author name, so we are not going to consider this also. Okay, then Mangifera indica Lindot, this is absolutely correct. And here care, okay, careless, very short from, they think that care will take from this name and Lin from this name. So this will not be the option. And remember, sometimes, okay, sometimes alternative to this will be Mangifera indica L dot. So instead of lin dot, they have the option of giving L dot. Now why they are not underlined? Because it is in italics form, so they have not underlined. The correct option in the given 4 is option B. Okay, so we'll go for the next one. Then this is a match the following kind of statement. We have to match column A with column B with respect to housefly. Okay, so NEET has very much interest, or they like housefly very much, I guess. So that's why the NEET, if you see the PYQs still now, whatever we have discussed, mostly they focus on housefly. Okay, so let us solve this one. Family, as you know, one point, the family name always ends with, okay, family name always ends with IDAE with respect to animals. Okay, with respect to plants, ACA. Okay, so family Musidae. Order is Diptera. Order Diptera. Class Insecta. Phylum Arthropoda. So let us see A4. We are having two options. We will eliminate first one and second one. These two are correct. B1. Okay, did we miss somewhere? Oh, sorry, we have marked it here 3 and we have written it for here. So A is 3. Okay, so we'll eliminate C and D. Then order Diptera. So B1, then C4, D2. So option A will be the correct answer. Okay, then next one. Study the 4 statements A to D given below and select the 2 correct ones out of them. Now, for those who feel that, okay, the questions from scientists, okay, means the scientist information will be given just prior to the beginning of a chapter, right? Now, here, see here, definition of biological species was given by Ernst Mayr. So this is a point which is extracted directly from the scientist's information. So you should never skip anything from the textbook. Okay, even a single line is very important. Okay, next. So option A is, the statement A is correct. We have to see 4 statements. Among 4 statements, we have to select 2 statements which are correct. Okay, let's see. The first statement is correct. Photoperiod does not affect reproduction in plants. Remember, photoperiod will definitely affect the reproduction. Photoperiod does affect reproduction in not just plants but animals also. Okay, specifically with respect to seasonal breeders. Okay, you should remember this. I hope till here it is clear. Binomial nomenclature was given by R.H. Whittaker. No, R.H. Whittaker gives a 5 kingdom classification. Remember that. R.H. Whittaker gives a 5 kingdom classification. Whereas the binomial nomenclature system, it was given by Carolus Linnaeus. Whenever you are solving the questions, try to analyze why the other options are incorrect while solving. Okay, when you are giving exam, you can cancel, eliminate, and you can go a little quick. But the time when you are practicing, you should analyze why the statement is incorrect, why the other statement is incorrect, and then you should go ahead. Okay. In unicellular organisms, reproduction is synonymous with growth, which is absolutely true. So in all the unicellular organisms, whether it may be bacteria, protistants, okay, all the single unicellular organisms, they show reproduction in accordance with or simultaneously. Whenever the growth is taking place, the unicellular organism, they undergo reproduction. So D statement is also correct, A is also correct. So the correct answer being option C, both A and D are correct. Then moving to the next question here. Now, nomenclature is governed by certain rules. Which one of the following is contrary to the rules of nomenclature? For those who did not get the meaning of contrary, contrary means opposite. Okay, in simple terms, contrary means opposite or which do not agree, okay, or which do not follow the rules of nomenclature. So let us see. The names are written in Latin and are italicized. Absolutely correct. When written by hand, the names are to be underlined. Okay, but remember they will be underlined separately. Genus will be underlined separately and the specific epithet will be underlined separately. Okay, they have not mentioned the word separately, but according to the current line, it is correct. Biological names can be written in any language. So, can we write biological name in any language? Then we will start calling the scientific name with whatever name we want. Okay, that is not true. Binomial name or biological name, it can be written only in which language? Latin language. It should be always derived from Latin. Okay, irrespective of where their origin. Means if you find a new organism here, okay, in India, and the people want to find the description about that organism which I have found in India, irrespective of where you find it, you have to give the name in Latin language only. Okay, if you are there in Australia, think if you are there in New Zealand, think if you are there in UK, wherever you are, but the names of that living organism, it must be always given in Latin language. Clear? I hope till here it is clear. Then fourth one, the first word in a biological name represents the genus name and the second is a specific epithet. So this is also true and the second statement is also correct, but you can remember that, or in the given options we will consider that as correct, but it will be underlined separately. Okay, so this is a complete wrong statement, so we are selecting that as compared to the second one. So the correct answer, which is incorrect, is option C. Clear? Then next one, the common characters between tomato and potato will be maximum at what level? Okay, now this is a very tricky question. Okay, this question was asked okay in Karnataka NEET 2013. So before 2016 there was separate examinations conducted by state. Okay, and at different levels, even AIPMT was there. Okay, All India Institute of Medical Science AIMS separate examination was conducted. So we'll see the answer now. Then between tomato and potato, first for knowing this, to solve this we should know their scientific name. Scientific name for tomato is Solanum lycopersicum. Okay, and potato is Solanum tuberosum. Now you have to remember, you can say, sir, by knowing this information, we can say that, sir, similarity is found in Solanum. We can say Solanum. No, you cannot say Solanum. That's the tricky point here. Whenever you are referring to a particular species, you cannot just say the name of specific epithet and refer to that as species. Remember, that's very important. This is itself all together. Okay, the genus name and specific epithet all together is considered as species. So it is one species. Do not get confused between specific epithet and species. Okay, this is one species. Which is the species? The name of the species is tomato here. Okay, and the species which we are referring to in the second part here is potato. Okay, so if both of these are considered, where they will come? If you see specific epithet, species, genus, then next to that is family. Okay, now here, so the correct option among the given options is family. Remember that. Okay, as just now I explained that both of these are considered as one single species, that is tomato and potato. So tomato and potato, they fall under one family, and that family is Solanaceae. Remember, the family name will always end with the ACA. Okay, I hope anyone is having any doubt. If you are having any doubt, you can definitely ask in the chat. Okay, so I am moving to the next one. Next question here is, which one of the following organism is scientifically, okay, correctly named, correctly printed according to the international rules of nomenclature, and correctly described? So we are seeing here so many things. It should be scientifically correctly named, correctly printed as well. Okay, and it should be following the rules of nomenclature, and at the same time it should have a correct description of that organism. Let's see. Musca domestica, the scientific name is absolutely correct. It is printed correctly also because the first letter, genus first letter is capital, species first letter is small. Absolutely correct. It has followed the rules of nomenclature. Now let us see the description part. It is the common house lizard. Is it a house lizard? It is a house, but definitely not lizard. It is a house fly. Okay, and house fly is a insecta that belongs to phylum Arthropoda, class Insecta. It is an insect. So if you have to describe it, we can just describe it as a insect. Okay, then next one, Plasmodium falciparum. Now to all those students who are in first year, remember that Plasmodium falciparum is one of the protistans. Examples for protistans. Which protistans? Remember, sporozoan. Okay, it is a sporozoan that has the ability to cause a disease. Which disease? Malaria. And to all the second years and droppers out there, Plasmodium falciparum can cause malignant malaria. Remember that. Okay, so I will just write here Plasmodium, okay, falciparum. Okay, falciparum, it causes malignant malaria. It is very important for the from the second year point of view. So you have to remember this. Okay. Now apart from Plasmodium, there are again two other species, Plasmodium malariae and Plasmodium vivax are the other two species which can cause malaria. Let us see what is the description. The naming is correct. It is a protozoan. Yes, absolutely. It is a protozoan belonging to kingdom Protista. Okay, it is a pathogen. Yes, obviously. Why we are calling it as a pathogen? What is a pathogen? Any disease causing organism. Any organism which has the ability to cause a disease is called as a pathogen. Okay, it causes causing the most serious type of malaria. Which is that most serious type of malaria that we discussed here? Malignant malaria. So it has a direct link with your second year human health and diseases part. Okay, remember that. Okay, next one, Felis tigris. Should we go further? Okay, it's an Indian tiger. Tiger is correct, tigress is correct, but the genus name Felis, it is incorrect. Why it is incorrect? Because the genus name should be Panthera. It should be Panthera tigris. That should be the genus name. Whereas Felis, where I'll write here, I'll write, see, Felis means it's a cat. Okay, Panthera should be the option there. Okay, so the scientific name is itself incorrect, so we will not proceed further. Okay, next, E. coli. E. coli means Escherichia coli. It's a bacteria. E. coli means it's a bacteria, but if you see the first letter genus is capital and they have put a dot, that's correct. You can represent a scientific name like that. But the second word is species, and species first letter should be always small. But what they have given? They have given it capital. Okay, so the full name is Entamoeba coli. Entamoeba, no, it's a Escherichia coli. Okay, commonly causing or commonly occurring bacterium in human intestine. You can consider Entamoeba coli for different species as well, but the only problem is the scientific name. So that's why we will cancel out this option, and the correct option is Plasmodium falciparum. Okay, so it has all the correct scientifically, naming is also correct, the description is also correct, the rules of nomenclature is also correct. Okay, now for those who are thinking, sir, why did you write your mains? It is not a JEE paper. Yes, it is not a JEE paper. Now you people know JEE mains and JEE advanced. So priorly, okay, AIPMT, that is All India Pre-Medical Test, they used to conduct in 2 different phases. Okay, that's why that time it was mains. Moving on to the next question. Which one of the following animals is correctly matched with its particular taxonomic category? Okay, let us see. Tiger, fine. Tigress, okay. Species, it's a species. It's correct answer. It's a common name and then followed by which group it belongs. Cuttlefish, mollusca. Even if we consider mollusca is a correct name, but it will not belong to class. It's a phylum. Okay, then humans, primata is correct, but primata is not a family, it's a order. Then housefly, musca is absolutely correct, but what it is? Musca is genus name. So the correct option is option A. Okay, I hope no doubts is there in this one. Then let us move to the next question. ICBN, okay, International Code for Botanical Nomenclature. So Indian, no, it's not an Indian name, it's international, not definitely not Congress, it's International Code of Botanical Nomenclature, where the naming is done with respect to all the plants. Okay, so all the plant species names will be in accordance with the ICBN. Then moving on to the next one, species are considered as. Now this is the most controversial question that one can frame. It was framed during 2003. Okay, so, as per most of the resources, they say species are considered as a real basic unit of classification. Yes, absolutely correct. But when you look into the other option, it is the lowest units of classification. Now, lowest unit of classification is species. We have mentioned it, but usually we will refer to it as the smallest unit of classification, one thing, and they never mentioned whether it is ascending order or in descending order, right? So usually, no, there is no such controversy about this, because artificial concept of human mind which cannot define absolute terms, this is incorrect. Real units of classification devised by taxonomists, means prepared by taxonomists. Yes, they are most probably they are done, but priorly it was all categories were given by a specific scientist, right? John Ray was the person who actually gave the term species. The person who defined the biological species was Ernst Mayr. Okay, so we are not considering this also. So when you have to consider between these two options, the accurate one option will be the real basic unit. Basic means primitive, first unit that we are going to consider is species. So therefore the option will be real basic unit of classification. Okay, so yes everyone, hello. So If you are having any doubt, you can definitely put in your comment. What is the meaning of taxon? Yes, so taxon is that particular category. Okay, we'll come to that. So taxon means it's a particular category. Okay, a specific category. As you know, taxonomic hierarchy, it starts with kingdom. Okay, kingdom, phylum or division, class, order, family, genus, species. So these are all taxonomic categories. So that particular taxonomic categories, it is a rank, it's a place, it's a position, right? So that's why a particular rank or a particular category, we are going to refer that particular category as taxon. Okay, I hope it is clear. Yes, Souvik. So taxon is that particular rank or a category which we use to define a particular taxonomic category. Okay, I hope it is clear. There are different categories, right? From kingdom to species, there are different categories. A single category, a single particular category is what we call it as a taxon. Okay. The stream is little delay, so if you find any difficulties, you can always put in your question. Okay, I'll be answering to that. Moving on to the next one, next question. Linnaeus is credited with. So Carolus Linnaeus. Carolus Linnaeus is a person who was associated with binomial nomenclature. He was a person who defined or who gave or introduced binomial nomenclature, usage of two components to identify one single species. Okay, that was given by Carolus Linnaeus. Theory of biogenesis. Theory of biogenesis is an evolution concept. Okay, and the theory of biogenesis means the life comes from pre-existing life. Okay, theory of biogenesis that was given by Louis Pasteur and was supported by Francisco di Reddi and Spallanzani. Okay, remember that theory of biogenesis was proved by Louis Pasteur and along with him Francisco Reddi and also the other person being Spallanzani. These three scientists were actually responsible for the explanation of theory of biogenesis. The discovery of microscope. Microscope was initially discovered by Hans and Jenison. Okay, Hans and Jenison. They both were the people who first discovered the microscope. Later on, it was used by two people which you already know, Robert Hooke and Antonio von Leeuwenhoek, for observing the cells. A discovery of blood circulation. Okay, it is very important question. It is there in your second year. Okay, okay. William Harvey was a person who discovered the blood circulation, but Linnaeus is credited with the binomial nomenclature. Okay, very good. Yes, that's the correct answer. Moving on to the next one, we will also understand which is the correct option and which is the incorrect option. I know that you people know the answers, so let us also understand why the other options are incorrect. Basic unit or the smallest taxon of the taxonomic classification according to the all the taxonomic categories is species. As just now we discussed, species is the real basic unit of classification. So the basic unit of classification will be species. Absolutely correct. Okay, then next. So till here we discussed all the PYQs, that is previous year question papers. Now we will see what can be the probable questions from this chapter. Okay, the pretext part. So the part which is just before the beginning of the chapter, we will first start from there. Okay, so the first question is, biology is the science of what? Biology, when we study biology, biology is the science of life forms, studying the life forms, but definitely not non-living forms. Biology is the study of life forms, absolutely correct. And along with that, we are also studying the living processes. So the processes that are occurring in the living organisms and also the living organisms. So option B will be the correct answer. Let us see the other options. Non-living forms definitely will not study in biology, okay, and living processes, non-living organisms cannot exhibit any living processes. Living processes only, no. So the correct answer will be option B, that is life and living processes. Absolutely. Very good. You are answering absolutely correct. So let us stick with us for some more time and let us see. Societies which indulge in a dash view of biology could register limited progress in biological knowledge. Ecocentric. Ecocentric means keeping the ecosystem at the center and observing all the other forms. Definitely not, because early myths or the society, they did not study from the ecosystem point of view. Their main or major focus was keeping human beings, okay, the benefits of human beings as the first priority. So therefore anthropocentric, that means the main focus, main view was point of view from the human beings. Therefore the anthropocentric will be the correct answer. Phyto means plant, centric means from the viewpoint of plants, biocentric from biological point. If we had observed from biocentric point of view, then the details or knowledge about biology we would have got it at very early stage. But society, we our major focus was on with respect to the anthropocentric view of biology, because of which there was very limited progress in biological knowledge. Clear? Moving on to the next one. Yes, okay. The biggest spin-off of detailed systems of identification, nomenclature and classification was the recognition of sharing of similarities among individual organisms. In what manner? Okay, so when we started studying in detail about identification, nomenclature, classification, and later on when we learnt about systematics, taxonomy, when we started learning about every single point, then whenever we were going to arrange the organisms or try to establish a relationship between two organisms, we just did not consider in only one way. We did not consider in vertical manner. We also established a connection both horizontally and vertically. Okay, what does this mean? Now try to understand that two species are there, species A, species 1 and species 2. Okay, now this species has come from a particular another species, it has evolved from one point, okay, and there was earlier species A from which this species 1 was evolved. So again this species A might have come from species Roman number 1, indicating that there was another species. So how the species 1 came into existence, from which particular species, which was its ancestor species? Species I or species 1 was the ancestor, Roman number 1 was ancestor for this particular species. So this kind of study is vertical, and we also establish the relationship between, what is the relation between species 1 and species 2, currently existing species, between two species, what is the relationship? So this becomes vertical study and this becomes horizontal study. So that's why we see that in current system we study both horizontal as well as vertical relationships between the organisms. So that was about pretext questions. Now we are moving on to the questions that may appear from Ernst Mayr. Okay, the evolutionary biologist, here itself in the question itself it is mentioned about evolutionary biologist. Whenever the word evolutionary biologist comes, you should know it will be usually the Ernst Mayr. But let us see the next part. Was popularly known as the Darwin of the 20th century. Okay, so who was the person who was known, okay, as the Darwin of the 20th century? It was Ernst Mayr. Definitely not Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin was way before, okay, his existence was way before the Ernst Mayr. Okay, Carolus Linnaeus was not known as Darwin. Okay, R.H. Whittaker was known for his 5 kingdom classification, as discussed earlier, 5 kingdom classification. And also you should remember that what is or Carolus Linnaeus is known for what all other things? He is known for binomial nomenclature. He is known for binomial nomenclature, and he published Species Plantarum. He also published Systema Naturae. Okay, and he was also the person who gave artificial system of classification. So these are all the information with respect to Carolus Linnaeus. Okay, then he was also the person who gave a two kingdom classification. Remember that. Okay, so two kingdom classification was given by Carolus Linnaeus. So this is how you have to remember about a particular scientist. Whenever his name comes, you should think of all the things that he has done throughout his career, or whatever is mentioned in the biology textbook, you should recall once. Okay, then Charles Darwin, as you know, he was the person who gave theory of Darwin theories. Okay, not only that, Darwinian theory. Okay, he gave Darwinian theories, natural selection, survival of the fittest. Okay, and how the natural selection works, about two key concepts, that is branching descent and natural selection. Not only that, he was also responsible for finding some species which were present on Galapagos Island, and he named them as Darwin's finches. Right, Darwin's finches. Now, Darwin's finches is an example for adaptive radiation. So, I hope it is clear till here, everyone. Yes, yes. Now, the question is the evolutionary biologist. It is purely with respect to Ernst Mayr, but simultaneously we are discussing about all the other things that was achieved by or given in this option the other scientists. So, can you explain please why Linnaeus classified the two kingdom system based on presence or absence of cell wall, though animal cells do not possess any cell wall? Absolutely true. Okay, that's why he started classifying the organisms based on presence or absence of cell wall. He neither considered whether the organisms are unicellular or multicellular. So for your question, I am answering here. Remember, he just not only considers cell wall as a single mode of classification, he also considers even locomotion as one of the criteria. But okay, locomotion he gives the second priority. The first priority he will give is to the presence of cell wall. Okay, so he keeps all the plants on one side, and he keeps the another group which lacks cell wall, and he names it as animals. So he just names it as kingdom Plantae and kingdom Animalia, two kingdoms based on presence or absence of cell wall. But what he does is, he will not even see whether they are unicellular or multicellular. He will not even see whether they are autotrophic or heterotropic. He will not even observe whether these organisms, okay, can be prokaryotic or eukaryotic. These three factors he ignores completely. He considers, because when Carolus Linnaeus observes the cells of plants and animals, he mainly finds the difference between these two cells is presence and absence of cell wall. He just looked into the two types of cells that were present. One type of cells, the plant cells, they had cell wall as the outermost covering of the cells, and with respect to animal cells, there was no cell wall. So he decides to keep the organism which are having cell wall in one group, that is kingdom Plantae, and the other group where the cell wall is absent, he keeps them under kingdom Animalia. So he will not consider prokaryote, are they prokaryotes or eukaryotes, are they unicellular or multicellular, are they heterotrophic or autotrophic, he will not say. That is why they were the major drawbacks of two kingdom classification. I hope it is clear. Yes. So let us move on to the next one. Ernst Mayr at the time of retirement, okay, in 1975, he assumed which of the following title? Okay, they are asking very specifically at the time of retirement. Okay, at the time of retirement, he assumes which title? Okay, ornithologist is a branch. Okay, it's a name of a branch wherein a person will study about birds. Okay, ornitho means birds. Logist, the person who studies about the birds, is referred as ornithologist. He was an ornithologist, no doubt he was an ornithologist, but what happened here is he was awarded with the title. They are saying title but not what department or what he is good at. So ornithologist is just the study of birds, so this is not a title. Evolutionary biologist, he, that's also he is okay, what we can say, he was an evolutionary biologist who studied about evolution, but that is not again the title which was given at the time of retirement. He was called as the Darwin of the 20th century, absolutely correct, but again that's not the title. The correct option for this is Alexander Agassiz, Professor of Zoology Emeritus. That was the title which was awarded from Harvard University. Okay, so that was the title which was awarded from Harvard University to Ernst Mayr at the time of his retirement. So when he was retiring, he got this award. Okay, moving on to the next one. Who among the following was responsible for making the origin of diversity as the central question of evolutionary biologist and pioneered the currently accepted definition of a biological species? So remember, as he was evolutionarist, means the person who studies about evolutions, okay, he made, okay, how the species was originated. He made the species origin, diversity of species as the main question, as the central question. Okay, he was responsible for making origin of a species diversity as the central question of evolutionary biologist, and pioneered means who achieved first, the first person to currently give the accepted definition of a biological species. So what is the definition of biological species? These are the two individual organisms or a group of organisms which can interbreed to produce a fertile offspring. Okay, so their definition was given by Ernst Mayr. Now remember Aristotle. Who is Aristotle? Father of biology. Not only father of biology, he was also regarded as father of zoology. Okay, next Theophrastus. He is called as father of botany. Okay, remember that. Then Ernst Mayr is an evolutionary biologist who was also known to have given the currently accepted definition of biological species. Bentham and Hooker, they were the two people who gave natural system of classification. Natural system of classification. This you will study it in plant kingdom. Okay, about Bentham and Hooker you will study it in plant kingdom. Aristotle and Theophrastus, these are the basics which you should know as you are studying biology. The person who is regarded as father of biology and zoology is Aristotle. Theophrastus was known to be the father of botany. Okay, moving on to the next one. Yes, so which among the following prizes were referred to as a triple crown of biology awarded to Ernst Mayr. Remember, Ernst Mayr received 3 very important prizes in biology, and those 3 prizes were itself called as triple crown. Okay, means 3 crowns of biology. It was Balson Prize, International Prize for Biology, Crawford Prize. All these 3 prizes were regarded as triple crown of biology. So the correct answer will be all of these. Okay, one important point for all of you people, whenever you look into all of these options, don't be in a hurry to mark all of these, because there can be a tricky question. Okay, so first understand the question, what is the question, and then try to attempt it. Okay, moving on to the next question. So we completed here the questions that may appear from the Ernst Mayr part. Now we will be discussing the questions from the introductory part of the chapter. So the first question from the introductory part is, which of the following habitats we do not find living organisms? We can find living organisms in cold mountains. Yes, absolutely. Deciduous forest and deserts, we can see the living organisms there. Hot springs, okay, mainly in hot springs, which type of organism will be living there? Archaebacterias, specifically thermoacidophiles. Okay, so the bacteria which are regarded as thermoacidophiles, which can survive in very high temperature, so those archaebacterias, which are also considered as living, right? So therefore, in all of these places we can find living organisms. So the option which is not correct is none of these. Okay, so living organisms can be found in all the 3 different places. Next one, what indeed is life? So what do you mean by life? Okay, which among the following refers to the technical question? So there were 2 implicits of what indeed is life. One from a technical point of view, the other from philosophical point of view. So the question, okay, don't be in a hurry just after reading the first line. Okay, first part of the question. The second part is they are specifically asking what will be the technical question. Okay, so the technical is, what is purpose of life, a technical question or philosophical question? It will be a philosophical question. We should devote ourselves to God. Again, it's kind of philosophical one, but not a technical one. Okay, protecting our motherland. Okay, that's a duty of every individual, right? Being protecting our motherland, that's a kind of philosophical one. But is this a technical one? What is the technical one here? What living is as opposed to non-living. So the technical one, which we see from a biologist point of view, when we see from the scientist point of view, the technical question will be, what is actually life when we compare with the non-living organisms? What is the major difference between living and non-living organisms? So therefore, the correct option is what is living as opposed to non-living. Okay, I hope till here it's clear. So we'll move on to the next one. What is living? So this is another next part of the chapter, what is living, which is not there in the currently new NCERTs, but is there according to the NTA syllabus. So we'll cover from this also. Okay, the twin characters. Twin means they are together. Twin characters of growth in living organisms. Increase in age and complexity? No, absolutely not. Increase in size and differentiation? The cell will increase in its size, absolutely. Differentiation is a part of it, but this is not the option. Increase in mass, okay, increase in mass, yes, absolutely, mass will increase, and also the number of individuals, absolutely correct. Increase in cell size, it's correct, and tissue organization will automatically take place. These are not the twin characters. So the twin characters is increase in mass and increase in number of individuals. When the mass increases, the number of individuals will also increase. So that is what is a twin characteristics of living organisms. Moving on to the next one, which statement correctly compares growth in plants and animals? When we compare the growth in plants and animals, which one is the correct option? Plants generally grow continuously. Yes, plants will grow continuously only, whereas animals grow only up to a certain age. Absolutely true. Animals have a limited growth period, whereas plants will grow continuously, mainly because of presence of meristematic tissue. Okay, very good. If you know, if you remember, that's very good. Animals grow continuously, absolutely incorrect. Okay, both plants and animals show stop growing immediately after reproduction, absolutely incorrect. Growth by cell division does not occur in animals. Then how it will happen? The only way or the only method of increasing the cell number in plants or animals is a cell division. Okay, cell division is of how many types? Just to recall, two types, right? Mitosis, meiosis. So again, the correct option is option A. Moving on to the next question. The unicellular growth can be easily observed in vitro cultures by simply counting the dash under the microscope. What do you mean by in vitro? In vitro means lab culture. Okay, by simply counting what? Now, it's a very tricky question. Now, you have studied about twin characters of growth, right? Twin characters of growth is increase in mass and increase in number of individuals. Then in hurry, what you will think? Mass of number cells and number of cells. So C will be the correct answer, both A and B. Now, what they have asked in unicellular organisms. So in unicellular organisms, we can observe whether they are growing or not growing by observing them under microscope. So how you should see? There is a Petri plate. Okay, in Petri plate, think as if these are bacteria. Okay, very less number of bacteria are there. After, leave it as it is for some time. Okay, leave it for some time. Then what happens here is slowly the bacteria will grow. How they will grow? Now, if you see here, there were very few bacteria. I don't know if you are able to observe. I'll just change the color. So these were the few bacteria here. Now what happens after some time is the bacterial count, the bacterial number count will go on increasing. Now how you will say the bacteria have grown here? Based on what? By counting the number of cells. You will count. How you will count? By placing them under the microscope. So unicellular growth can be easily observed in lab by simply counting the number of cells. Okay, we'll count the number of cells and then we can predict, or then we can say that the growth is observed in unicellular organisms. Then the next one, in majority of higher animals, we are speaking about higher animals, remember that. In majority of higher animals and plants, growth and reproduction, understand here, higher animals and higher plants, growth is a separate event, whereas reproduction is a separate event. Whereas in unicellular, growth and reproduction, they occur simultaneously. Whereas in higher animals and higher plants, the growth and the reproduction, they both are separate events, separate, both mutually. Okay, mutually means both. Both are separate. Separate means exclusive events. So the correct option is option A. Inclusive means they both, whenever a higher animal or higher plant it grows, suddenly they are bound to reproduce. Do you see like that? Whenever a person grows or whenever organism grows, is it 100% that they will reproduce? Think of angiosperms. Okay, think of the flowers. If and only if the pollination occurs, then only they can reproduce. Okay, if you keep that plant in such a place that there will be no pollination, either self or cross, if there is no kind of pollination, any pollination, will the plant reproduce? No, absolutely not. So, but the plant will grow, right? So the plant grows, but there is no guarantee that reproduction will take place. That happens only in higher animals. Okay, they both are separate events, they both are exclusive events. Okay, not both A and B, none of these not answer. Inclusive, definitely not. Mutually inclusive events, when will be the option of mutually inclusive events? When we are talking about unicellular or lower animals and plants group. Okay, I hope it is clear till here. Then growth in non-living objects such as mountains and sand moulds occur through, okay, Growth with respect to mountains and sand moles occur by accumulation of material on the surface. Non-living organisms, they cannot divide by cell division. Internal synthesis of protoplasm, definitely not. Protoplasm is completely absent, that's why they are called as non-living organisms. Increase in number of cells, that is a characteristic feature of living organisms. Accumulation, what is meant by accumulation? If there is a mountain, slowly, if we talk about any snow, okay, snow will get collected on the surface, okay. So on the surface there is a collection. What is that collection itself called as? It is called as accumulation, okay. It is called as accumulation. Accumulation of what? Anything, it can be anything, okay. Accumulation on external side, okay. So it is an external phenomenon, remember it. Growth in case of non-living is external. I hope it is clear till here, everyone. Next, growth cannot be regarded as an all-inclusive defining property of living organisms. Why? Yes, we will not include growth in defining feature. What is the reason? The reason is some living organisms never increase in their mass. No, all living organisms, they will increase in their mass. This is the correct option, okay. Growth occurs only in multicellular organisms? Nah, growth will occur even in unicellular organisms. Okay, this is incorrect. Growth may occur in multicellular and unicellular, and that is not the reason why we are not including defining property. Non-living objects can also increase in their mass. Absolutely true. But if you remember, if non-living organisms, if they increase in their mass, non-living organisms are increasing in their mass, non-living objects are increasing in their mass. That's why we cannot call growth as a defining property. Dead organisms do not grow. It is a correct point. It is a correct point, but not the correct answer for this particular statement. To call growth as a defining property, we have to observe growth only in the living organisms, but we are observing growth even in non-living organisms. That's why growth is not called as a defining feature. Next, which of the following is correctly matched? Let us go on matching. Yeast shows budding, absolutely correct. Planaria shows true regeneration, absolutely correct. Protonema of mosses shows fragmentation, absolutely correct. So the first one is correct. Yeast by fragmentation, no, yeast is by budding. Planaria by budding, no, planaria reproduces by true regeneration. Protonema by fragmentation, okay. Hydra, again, hydra by budding. Planaria spore formation is seen in fungi. Fungi, we can see not just budding. Fungi means they are talking about yeast. Okay, yeast can show by budding, but budding only is not the correct option. Mainly fungi will reproduce by fragmentation. Amoeba by budding. No, amoeba shows reproduction by fission. The option that was given there, binary fission, here that will be the option. Okay, amoeba represents by binary fission. Hydra by budding. Planaria by spore formation. No, planaria by true regeneration. So the correct option is option A. Then moving on to the next one. In unicellular organisms such as bacteria, unicellular algae and amoeba. So in all these three different groups, what happens? Growth and reproduction, they are always mutually exclusive. They are not separate. Reproduction, they are inclusive. Okay. Reproduction occurs without growth. No, growth should take place. Growth occurs without an increase in cell number. No, growth should occur with an increase in cell number. That's what we call it as growth. But with respect to amoeba, they are asking. Amoeba is a unicellular organism. So in unicellular organism, reproduction is synonymous with growth. Okay, it takes place at the same time. Okay, in living organisms and unicellular organisms, growth, I mean reproduction is synonymous with growth. So whenever there is reproduction, at the same time we will find the growth as well. Okay, next, The occurrence of mules, sterile worker bees and infertile human couples demonstrate what? Reproduction is absent in all multicellular organisms. No. Reproduction is seen in all the multicellular organisms and unicellular organisms. But they are talking about mules, sterile worker bees and infertile human couples. Okay. Reproduction is not an all-inclusive defining feature of life. The statement is the statement is correct. But okay, is that the most accurate option for the given question? Maybe not. Reproduction occurs only by asexual means. Who said? Reproduction occurs sexually as well as asexually. Sterile organisms, in these, okay, they are all sterile organisms and are considered non-living. Just think, the occurrence of mules, sterile worker bees and infertile human couples, what they represent? They represent that sterile organisms are considered non-living. No, they are living, man. These all are living. But reproduction cannot be considered as a defining feature of life. Why? Because of these three examples. Okay, the correct appropriate option is option 2. Moving on to the next one. The chemicals inside the cells are constantly being made and changed into some other biomolecules. These conversions are referred to as metabolic reactions, physical reactions, biological reactions, natural reactions. Remember, metabolism is a process. The reactions that takes place, okay, that is what we call metabolic reactions. And in these reactions, what they are saying, the cells are constantly being made and changed into some other biomolecules. For example, amino acids, slowly amino acids combine to form what? Protein. All the amino acids, they combine to form what? Protein. And sometimes a protein is broken down into simpler forms to give what? Amino acids. What kind of reactions are these? These are all chemical reactions. Okay, so another word which we use for chemical reaction is metabolic reactions. Remember, sometimes if metabolic reactions are not given, the correct answer will be chemical reactions. Okay, so that will be the correct option for this. Moving on to the next one. Metabolism may be defined as what? Okay, as you all know, it's a very famous definition. It is the sum of total all the chemical reactions occurring inside the body of the living organisms. Okay, breakdown of food molecules only. If there is only breakdown, it is what we call catabolism. Okay, if there is breakdown, we will only call it as catabolism. If there is formation of biomolecules, that is what we call anabolism. So catabolism and anabolism is itself called as metabolism. Catabolism plus anabolism. Then exchange of gases between an organism and its environment, that's definitely not metabolism, it's a respiration. Okay, so the correct option is option C. Moving on to the next one. An isolated metabolic reactions performed in a cell-free system. Remember, metabolism can be performed outside the cell also, in a test tube. That type of reactions, they are neither living nor non-living, but they represent one living reactions. What can happen here? Consider a sugar molecule which is added to a test tube. Sugar molecule being a disaccharide, that's inverted sugar. Okay, that is your sucrose. Sucrose will be digested to form glucose and galactose. Okay, so that process, it can occur outside the cells also, right? It's a process, it's a reaction that is taking place. So therefore it is referred as a living reaction, but it cannot be considered as neither living nor non-living. Okay, non-living reactions unrelated to life is not the option. Capable of independent reproduction, that doesn't have any connection with metabolism. A complete living organism, what is a meaning of an isolated metabolic reaction there. You cannot call just a reaction as a complete living organism, because to call a living organism there should be a minimum of one cell. Okay. The defining feature of life form is, which among the following is a defining feature which is present only in living organisms without any exception? Increase in body mass. It can be seen in living as well as non-living. So therefore we cannot call this as defining feature. Sexual reproduction is seen even in mules, sterile worker bees, and even in some human couples, infertile human couples. Now, because of all these three, okay, they are living and they exhibit sexual reproduction, but we cannot consider them as they exhibiting reproduction, because they all are sterile. Okay, so even sexual reproduction cannot be the option. Locomotion, okay, is not a defining feature. The defining feature is cellular organization, wherein the cells are arranged into cells combined to form tissues, tissues combine to form tissue system, and tissue system combine to form organ, and organ combine to form organ system. So this is what we see, and therefore the defining feature is cellular organism. As if you have to call a particular organism as living, it should have a minimum of one cell. Okay, moving on to the next question. The most obvious and technically complicated feature of living organisms. The complicated feature, according to the NCERT line, it says that the ability to sense and respond to their surrounding, and that response could be to a physical, okay, chemical or biological stimuli. Okay, I hope it is clear till here, everyone. Metabolism, you cannot call it as a complicated feature, because in all the living organisms we see this feature. Cellular organization is definitely, they are all defining features, but cellular organization and metabolism is not a complicated feature when compared to the consciousness or the ability to sense their surrounding and response to the external stimuli, which could be in the form of physical, chemical or biological. Okay, all these three are defining features, don't get confused. They're asking technically complicated feature. Technically complicated feature is ability to sense their surrounding and respond. Okay, because we are considering self-conscious as one of the factor, we will say that when the response is to be given, usually it becomes a complicated feature. Which statement regarding response to environmental stimuli is correct? All the organisms from prokaryotes to even complex eukaryotes can sense and respond to environmental cues. Absolutely correct. Okay, only animals respond to changes in the environment? No, even the other living organisms can respond. Prokaryote cannot sense chemical stimuli. Who says? They will respond, or else antibiotic would never have worked. Plants respond only to light and not to other organisms. Who said? Plant respond to even the other chemical responses as well, chemical and other physiological responses, and even some biological response as well. If you have studied amensalism, what is amensalism? Wherein one organism is harmed, the other is neither harmed nor benefited. So that organism which usually is not harmed will produce some chemicals. Let us just talk about that. Amensalism. Okay, one organism is harmed. Why it is harmed? Because this organism is going to produce some chemicals, and those chemicals are just kind of products that are formed during the metabolism. They act as a secondary metabolites. These chemicals will be released into the soil. When they are released into the soil, the nearby plants, they will get affected by these chemicals. Okay, therefore they may not show maximum growth. Okay, that's why the correct option for this is the first one. From prokaryotes to all the complex eukaryotes, we can see in the consciousness. Photoperiod particularly affects all the seasonal breeders for the reproduction. Okay, digestion and photoperiod is no connection at all in animals. Okay, respiration in unicellular, although if you come onto sunlight and if you walk, the digestion takes place, but that has no direct connection. Respiration in unicellular organisms, no. Respiration in photoperiod is not the correct option. Growth of non-living objects, growth can only occur by accumulation, not by photoperiod. Okay, so the correct option is reproduction in seasonal breeders, whether it may be plants or animals. The photoperiod is going to affect reproduction process. Okay, the organism that possesses self-consciousness. So the self-consciousness property, as discussed in the class, is only with respect to human beings. Okay, only human beings have self-consciousness, but no other organisms exhibit self-consciousness. Okay, in which of the following cases do we see that patient has no self-consciousness? When a patient is suffering from pneumonia, pneumonia is a bacterial disease. Okay, that can be caused by Streptococcus pneumoniae or Haemophilus influenzae. When a patient is suffering from cancer, okay, cancer is uncontrolled growth of cells, okay, but that is not when the patient has no self-consciousness. Okay, patients who are suffering from cancer, they have self-consciousness. When a patient is suffering from liver cirrhosis means damage of liver. It might be because of consumption of excess amount of alcohol. Okay, but self-consciousness is not seen in a patient who is in coma. So the people who are there in coma, their brain is dead, so therefore they are unable to respond. Okay, so we can say that the people in coma, they are brain dead. Then moving on to the next one, the defining property. Just a second. It's a very large file, so it takes a little time to open. Just stay connected for a moment and we'll begin resume once again. Yes, so it is starting. Just one more moment. Yes, so the defining property of living organisms associated with awareness and response to their surrounding. Okay, so the property of living organisms, when they are aware, okay, about their surrounding, and also they are able to respond to their surrounding, such a property is called as consciousness. Growth, as we discussed, growth is increase in mass and increase in number. So there is no speaking of mass and number. Reproduction is when an organism is able to produce its next generation, that is new offspring, and that is also, it should be fertile. That is what is reproduction, which is not mentioned. Mutation is a sudden change in the genetic material of an organism. So whenever the genetic material, the DNA sequence changes, that is what we call mutation. But consciousness is that particular property which says that the organism will be aware about its surroundings. The properties of tissues that are not found in their constituent cell, okay, it arises because of what? Okay, mainly it arises because of interaction among the constituent cells. They are saying the property of tissues. that are not found in their constituent cells. Understand, this is a particular tissue, okay, made up of again different cells, okay, I mean same kind of cells which carries out the same function. This is not a abs, okay, I'm just drawing, consider these as cells, okay, group of cells forms tissues. This tissue, okay, the property of this tissue is different from the cells that are present on this side, okay, these are again different tissues. Why is this character observed? Because the interaction among constituent cells, these cells will interact in such a way that whatever is required, okay, they can easily share among themselves. The property of tissues that are not found, they are not found in their constituent cell. Why? Because they feel that whatever I need, it can be given by the adjacent cell. Therefore, I can interact with this cell to get whatever things I will need. In the same manner, this cell will interact with the adjacent cell and gives the material or the components which is required by this cell. Okay, so this cell will get the components of this cell, and this cell is going to get the components of its adjacent cell. Because of this reason, because they can interact with each other, the tissues that are found in a multicellular organisms are different from one another. Living organisms can be best described as, what are actually living organisms? Are they non-evolving system? No, definitely not. They are evolving systems. Chemically inactive system? No, they are chemically active systems. Means metabolism, they are talking about metabolism. Inactiveness means there is no metabolic reactions. Then how are they called as living organisms? Living organisms are self-replicating, absolutely correct. They are evolving, absolutely correct. Self-regulating, interactive system that is capable of responding to the stimuli is the correct answer. Okay, systems that necessarily reproduce sexually? No. Okay, systems that even reproduce sexually, they can be called as living organisms seen in lower organisms. But they are saying reproduce sexually, only the sexually reproducing organisms are living organisms is incorrect. The most appropriate answer is C. Moving to the next question. All living organisms which are present today, or they were present in the past, or if they are present in the future, they are linked to one another by what? By sharing same genetic, by sharing common genetic material but to varying degree, by sharing different genetic material. Will they share different genetic material or same genetic material but to varying degree? Okay, sharing of the different genetic material but to the same degree? No. Okay, wherever there is same degree, you can easily cancel it. Okay, they will share some common genetic material, but that common genetic material slightly changes from one another. Okay, therefore the option is option D. Okay, we share some similarities with our ancestors. Okay, there is some common genetic material, but whatever the characters that are present in us and in our ancestors, they slightly vary. Okay, that vary to some degree. I hope it is clear till here. So that completes what is the living part. Then now we are moving on to the next part, or the actual NCERT part in today's NCERT is diversity in the living world. That is the next part that we are seeing here. I guess there is no doubts, no questions till here. Then, in which of the following given places you will find greater diversity of living organisms? Okay, in pond there is a specific amount of organisms that we can see. Okay, yes, ponds have some limited number of diversity, but they are asking greater diversity. Greater diversity can be seen in grassland, but the option that they have mentioned here, dense forest. So when you compare dense forest with grassland, dense forest is having greater number of diversity when compared to all the other options. Okay, moving on to the next one. If you are having any doubts, you can always ask in the comments in the chat box. I'll reply. So each different kind of plant, animal or organism that we see represents what? So whenever we see different kinds of plants, animals, organisms, they represent species. Ecosystem is all the overall interaction of organism and its surrounding is ecosystem. Food chain means how one organism, okay, is dependent on the other organisms, that is food chain. They are saying different kinds of these organisms, they are individually each different kind of plant, animal, each single plant, what they're all species. Biodiversity means overall. Food chain, okay, how they are interconnected. Ecosystem, how they are connected with the environment and their surroundings, how they interact. The approximate, very important question here, the approximate number of species that are known and described in this chapter is 1.7 to 1.8. Very important. Okay, if it is asked from second year point of view, what will be the question? Again, as discussed, over 1.5 million species. Okay, if it is asked from the biodiversity point of view, okay, the second year. Then moving on to the next one, when we explore new areas, whenever we see or observe new areas, new organisms, they are continuously being identified. How they are identified, where they are identified, in old areas, in new areas, or both old and new areas? Both A and B. Why? Because as I said, if you visit a place to verify or to confirm or to check the diversity in a specific season, if you go and when you come back, maybe soon after that season, there may be presence of some other organisms. Maybe when you went to investigate the number of species during that time, that was not the season where the other organisms will grow, right? So that's why even in old areas we find new organisms, and also in new areas we find new organisms. Okay, moving on to the next one. The plants and animals in our own area, they are known by their dash name. Okay, they are known by their vernacular name, local. Okay, vernacular name is also called as a local name. Okay, keep that in your mind. Scientific name means scientific name throughout the world. Okay, binomial scientific name and biological name, they both are same. Okay, binomial nomenclature means usage of two words to identify one organism. These are used for identification of species all over the world, not in a specific area. Okay, correctly matched pair. So which among the following is correctly matched pair? Let us move from the last. Taxonomy, studying only the local names of an organism, that is not at all a study. Okay, that is not at all even taxonomy. Classification, describing an organism without grouping it. Without grouping, then how you will call classification? Absolutely not. Nomenclature, standardizing the naming of organism, absolutely correct. So it is a specific way or method of naming an organism. Identification, assigning the same universal names to every single organism, that is not identification. Identification means observing and selecting based on characters. Okay, so correct answer is nomenclature. The next one, the process of taxonomy in which the organisms is recognized on the basis of its correct description. They are saying organism is recognized. Recognize means you will do what? You will identify. Okay, so you will identify based on the description. That process is identification. Nomenclature, naming, classify, grouping. Characterization, description, but you are recognizing, you are identifying based on description. What is that? That is identification. Okay, the next one, the scientific names of plants and animals, they both are governed by scientific names of plants and animals. So remember, it's very important, they are asking respectively. So first you should find the organization which names for only plants. So the group which is responsible for naming of plant groups, they are ICBN, International Code of Botanical Nomenclature. No other options has ICBN. Okay, the another one, the adjacent to plants is animals, that is ICZN. International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. So the correct option is option A. ICZN and ICBN. If the question was animals first, then plants, it would have been option 2. But as they have asked respectively, this will not be the option. Okay. IUCN, that is International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resource, that will be coming in your second year. ICBN, no. ICZN and IUCN, no, it's not the correct option. Next, what will be the scientific names ensuring? So what scientific names ensure? Each organism has only one name. Yes, that's why the scientific name is given. Description of any organism should enable people to arrive at the same name throughout the world. Yes. Okay, wherever the people are living, they should identify and they should recognize any organism wherever they are living by only one name and the same name. They also ensure that such a name has not been used for any other known organism. Very true. Okay, because scientific name, if we are giving, no two organisms can have only one scientific name. So scientific name will ensure all of these. Okay. Next, the system of providing a name with two components. Okay, two components, that is by naming, nominal. Okay, two letters, two components we are using to give a name. So that's why that is what we call binomial nomenclature. Trinomial means three names to identify one single species. Here we find generic name, specific epithet, and even subspecies. Okay, polynomials means many. Then the system of binomial nomenclature. The binomial nomenclature was given by Carolus Linnaeus, as discussed earlier. Ernst Mayr, evolutionary biologist. Charles Darwin was the person who gave Darwinian theories, and also he gave Darwin's finches. Everything was given by Charles Darwin. Aristotle, who is regarded as father of biology and also father of zoology. But binomial nomenclature was given by Carolus Linnaeus. Then moving on to the next one, the two components of a binomial scientific name. Very easy question, straightforward question. The two components of a scientific name are a generic name and specific epithet. Okay, family name is not the correct answer. Generic name is correct, but it cannot be the second component. Specific epithet is correct, but it is not the first component. Author's name cannot be a part of binomial name, binomial nomenclature. It is written after the specific epithet. Order and family name cannot come. Okay, so option B is the correct answer. Moving on to the next one. Which scientific name is written correctly? Now, as per the rules, if you observe, the first letter of a genus should be always capital. Okay, but you have to select among the given options. Biological names are generally in which language? Okay, they are always in Latin language. Most of the people might get confused with italics. Italics is the style of writing. Italics is the method or style of writing. Latin is a language. So you should remember how biological names are generally written, or how, in which language they are written. Latin. Vernacular means local. Okay, biological names cannot be written in local language, neither they are written in English language. When a biological name is handwritten, whenever we write it with our hand, we should separately underline generic and specific name. That is what is the first option, right? The generic name and the specific epithet, they both are underlined separately. That is the correct answer. Only generic name is underlined? Definitely not. Only specific epithet is underlined? No. Both words are written in capital? No, not at all. So the correct option is option A. Okay. Next one. Which among the following rule is incorrect in accordance with the binomial nomenclature? So if you know the rules of binomial nomenclature, we'll find it out very soon. Biological names are generally written in Latin. This is correct. Okay, this is correct statement. That's a rule, correct rule. They are talking about incorrect one. Okay, the first letter of genus starts with capital. Absolutely correct. The first letter of specific epithet, it starts with small. This is also correct. Okay. If handwritten, the scientific names must be underlined. Correct. When printed, it will be in italics. This statement is also correct. The first name represents genus. Absolutely correct. The second word, family. No, the second word represents specific epithet. Okay, specific epithet is what is being represented in the second component of biological name. So the incorrect option, which is our correct option, is option D. Next, moving on to the next one. In the name Mangifera indica, lin indicates what? The plant belongs to family Linaceae. Don't observe ACA at the last and say Linaceae is a family to which Mangifera indica belongs. The plant belongs to which family? If you people remember, Mangifera indica belongs to Anacardiaceae. Okay, plant name with respect to family name with respect to plants ends with ACA. The species was first described by Linnaeus. Absolutely correct. The species for the first time was discovered by Linnaeus. The species was collected from a place called Lin. No, there is no such place called as Lin. The specific epithet is Lin. No, the author's name is Lin. Author's name is Lin. I hope this is clear. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. Classification is a process of what? Classification is a process of grouping organisms into convenient categories based on observable characters. Assigning only local names is not classification, it's a method of giving name. Describing the habitat of an organism, nah, that's description. Preserving organism for future reference, that is not again classification. Classification means you are grouping a particular organism in one particular group based on its characters. The scientific term for the categories to study organism is called taxa. Scientific term, whenever we use scientific term, we cannot say nomenclature. Nomenclature is not the term which we use for categorizing the groups to study organism. Nomenclature means naming. Species is a group of organisms. Okay, classification is a method of classifying an organism, but the specific word, the term that we use for categorizing to study organisms is taxa. Next, animals, mammals and dogs, they all represent what? Taxa at which level? Animal is at very highest level. Now under animals there will be mammals. Now not only mammals, there can be other groups as well. So in mammals there are again dogs. So all these three, they are representing different taxa. At what level? At a different level. Okay, at different level they are representing a particular category. Okay, I hope this is clear. Which statement regarding taxa is incorrect? Okay, regarding a particular taxa which is incorrect. A taxon represents only the species level. No, who said? Above the species also there will be a taxa. Taxa are merely morphological aggregates. Who said? Okay, once when we reach above the family level, the morphological, not just morphological aggregates, we will consider group of characters. Okay, plants and animals cannot be considered as taxa. Who said? They can be. They are saying about correct. Taxa may represent categories at different hierarchical levels, which is absolutely correct. So at different hierarchical levels, taxa is observed. Okay, any doubts still here, students? Okay, moving to the next question. The basic processes of taxonomy include 4 main things that are present, or that is what we say it as taxonomy is: characterization, identification, classification and nomenclature. These are the 4 different taxonomic processes that we see. Okay, respiration, reproduction, classification and excretion, these ones, they are physiological processes but not taxonomic processes. Collection, preservation, digestion, they are again physiological processes. This is a physical process. Preservation and digestion is a physiological process. Mutation, evolution, metabolism and identification. Only metabolism identification is a taxonomic process. Rest all, they are not a part of taxonomy. So the part of taxonomy or the basic four processes that occurs in taxonomy is identification, nomenclature, classification and characterization. So the first option is correct option. Okay, moving to the next one. Modern taxonomic studies, they are based on, remember this is there in your NCERT which you may neglect. Main taxonomic processes, they are characterization, identification, classification and nomenclature. But today's taxonomic studies, modern taxonomic studies, they are based on external and internal structure, cell structure, developmental process, ecological information. All of these are considered while classifying an organism based on characters. So therefore modern taxonomic studies are based on all the mentioned characters. So all of these is the correct answer. Next one, the earliest system of classification, when the people started classifying way back, okay, during the time of early humans, humans primarily they classified based on what? Evolutionary relationship, that is systematics. That time where systematics should come, right? Uses of organisms, uses were based on uses of organisms for what? Food, clothing and shelter. For khana, pina, rehna, sona or kapde, for those purpose human beings classified different groups. So based on uses. Molecular similarities, during that time where molecular study took place. Embryological development again is not the option. So based on uses, early human beings they classified different groups for the purpose of food, clothing and shelter. The term systematics is derived from the Latin word, as you people know, that is systema. So the Latin word systema is used for the term systematics. This Latin word systema was later used by whom? Carolus Linnaeus. He used this word in his publication of what? Systema Naturae. Systema Naturae in the year 1758. Remember that. Okay. Nomen is a Latin name for nomenclature. Taxon is a scientific term for a group of categories. Species is the basic unit of classification. So systematics is a word which is derived from Latin word systema. That means a systematic arrangements of organisms. Okay. Next, Linnaeus used the term Systema Naturae as his, just now we spoke, as his title of publication. So he used Systema Naturae as a title for his publication. Publication means he wanted to publish a book, okay, on animals, okay, which was based on animal group. He published, okay, and that publication, the title of that publication was Systema Naturae. The scientific name for human beings is Homo sapiens. Which is not the question. What is it is asking? A system of ecological classification? No. A taxonomic category? No. Taxonomic categories can be kingdom, phylum, division, class, order, family, genus, species. Okay. Next. Systematics differ from traditional classification, means taxonomy, because systematics also considers what? So what is the group or what is the character that systematics is considering, which traditional system of classification did not consider? That is evolutionary relationship between organisms. Remember, it's a very important point that systematics considered evolutionary relationship, okay, which taxonomy did not consider. Okay. Economic uses of organism? No, people did not go for marketing of organisms. Only local names. Local names has nothing to do with systematics and traditional classification. Only external morphology. No, all these were primitive method of classifying an organism. But systematics is purely based on evolutionary relationship and establishing the relationship between two organisms. the last category, okay, the ultimate, before the final category group is taxonomic categories. Okay, so this is our second last part, that is taxonomic categories. Classification is what? It's a linear process, it's a scientific, it's a single step process, it involves hierarchy of steps, and it is a monostep process. Remember, classification is a hierarchy of steps. It involves hierarchy of steps, means whenever you are classifying on an organism, you are going to start with species level, followed by genus, family, okay, then order, class, phylum or division, then you will see kingdom. Okay, so this is the hierarchical system of classification. Okay, then all taxonomic categories will constitute taxonomic hierarchy. So whatever we discussed here, these are all taxonomic categories. All taxonomic categories constitute taxonomic hierarchy. Okay, remember that. So this is the taxonomic hierarchy. All categories, they will combinedly called as taxonomic categories. Okay, taxonomic hierarchy. Sorry. Next, which group represents a group of organisms sharing common features like 3 pairs of jointed appendages? Now remember, jointed, whenever the word jointed comes, they are talking about arthropoda. Okay, 3 pairs, whenever 3 pairs of jointed appendages they are talking about insects. Okay, whereas the remaining 3 options, they will not come under arthropoda only. So the correct option is class Insecta is that particular group which share features such as 3 pairs of jointed legs. Okay, the most abundant class in the whole animal kingdom is class Insecta. Which statement regarding the taxonomic category is correct? Every taxonomic category represents only a morphological feature. No. Okay, they are saying correct sentence or correct sentence with respect to taxonomic category. Every taxonomic category represents only morphological feature. No, some even show vegetative and reproductive features at higher taxonomic rank. Each category represents a rank and is commonly termed as a taxon, which is correct. Okay, each, for every single rank, okay, for every single category there is a rank, and for every rank we commonly call it as taxon. A taxon cannot serve as unit of classification. Who said taxon can serve as a unit of classification? It is a unit of classification. Taxonomic hierarchy consists of only species and genus. No, it consists of species, genus, family, order, class, phylum or division, or kingdom. It consists of all these things. Okay, so the correct option is option B. Moving on to the next question. The taxonomic groups or categories are what? Remember, they are distinct biological entities, means they are very specific entities. They are distinct. So non-distinct को पहले हटा देते हैं. They are distinct biological entities, correct. And merely morphological aggregates. Are all the biological species, are all the living organisms, they are all classified only on the basis of morphological aggregates? No, just now we said they are classified not just based on morphological aggregates, but they are also classified based on vegetative and again reproductive features as well. So they are merely morphological aggregate. Merely means only, merely means only, or just morphological aggregates. Not just morphological aggregates, but they are having other characters which are considered, and that is what they are called as taxonomic groups or categories. And whatever the organism is placed in the particular category, they are all living organisms. So that's why we are saying distinct biological entities. They are not same, they are all unique. All the organisms that we are placing in the category, a specific category, are all unique, and they are all placed in the taxonomic categories based on different characters. Not only morphological characters, we can include vegetative okay, and reproductive, okay. So we will include these characters as well, okay, not just this, even floral characters as well, okay, when we are classifying orders. Next, the lowest taxonomic category common to both plants and animals. The lowest taxonomic category is species here. Okay. Next, as we discussed in the PYQs, the same questions are there. The basic requirement in placing an organism in various category. What should be the basic requirement? If you want to classify an organism into different groups, into different taxonomic categories, what knowledge you should have? You should have knowledge of nomenclature. If you just have the knowledge of nomenclature, you can just name an organism. You cannot classify an organism. Knowledge of grouping, you know how to group, but what is the use? Okay, based on what you will group, that is the question here. So just knowing the knowledge of how to group is not the option here. Knowing the knowledge of characters, very important. If you have the knowledge of characters, if you know the characters, then you can arrange the organism into one particular category, right? So that's what, having the knowledge of characters is very important in classifying the different organism into various category. The knowledge of classification, that is what they are asking, how you will classify into various organism. So you should have the knowledge of characters, then only you can classify. So the basic requirement in placing an organism. So placing an organism means they are talking about classifying. So if you want to classify, you should have the knowledge of characters. Okay. Next. Okay. A species is considered to be what? Species, okay, a group of individual organisms with fundamental similarities that can be distinguished by from related species by morphological differences. So when we differentiate species, we will differentiate them by morphological characters. When you observe tomato and potato, just by observing their characters, just by observing their morphological characters, you can differentiate. So that is what is species. A group of unrelated means if two organisms, they are not having any relationship, if they are present in same habitat, they are not considered as species, but they are considered as a community. Okay, community means different population present in a same area is community. Okay, an assemblage of related families. Related families is order, but they are asking about species. The highest category in classification is kingdom, but not species. So the most accurate option, okay, for the from the given options is option B. Okay, moving on to the next one. Which set contains only specific epithets? Specific epithets, that means the species name where it is present. Mangifera, Solanum, Panthera, these all are genus name. Homo, Felis, Solanum, again a genus name. Panthera is genus name. Leo is specific epithet. Okay, Mangifera again genus. Indica tuberosum leo, these all are specific epithet. These again all three are specific epithet. They are asking set of specific epithets. The answer will be option D. Okay, so moving on to the next question. A genus, what is genus? It is an aggregate of closely related species having more characters in common than species of other genera. This is the exact definition of genus in the NCERT textbook. Okay, so when you compare two species that are present in one genera, they are dissimilar. They are having some characters which are not similar to the species of other genera. That is what we call genus. A group of related families is order. A group of related order is class. Highest category of classification, kingdom. Okay, I hope this is clear, everyone. Next one. Potato and brinjal belong to the same genus. Potato and brinjal, remember, they both belong to same genus, that is Solanum. Mangifera, mango, Panthera, for tigress, that is tiger, lion and leopard. Felis for cat, solanum. Potato, that is solanum tuberosum. Brinjal, that is solanum melongena. Okay, I hope this is clear. Next, moving on to the next one. Which statement is correct? Lion, tiger and cat belong to the genus Felis. Yes or no? Lion, that is Panthera leo. Tiger, that is Panthera tigris. Cat, Felis. All these, cat belongs to Felis is correct. But tiger and lion, these both, they belong to Panthera. Okay, so this is incorrect. Lion, leopard, tiger, that is Panthera leo, Panthera pardus and Panthera tigris belongs to Panthera, whereas cat belongs to Felis. This is our correct answer. Lion and tiger belong to Solanum? No, they belong to Panthera. Okay, Panthera and Felis represent species of the same genus. No, they represent genus. Okay, they represent different genus. Okay, so again, option C, option A and option D are incorrect. Option B is the correct answer. Moving to the next question. A family is best described as, what is family? Family is best described as an assemblage of related order. Okay, a group of individuals of the same species. Same species, a group of same individuals, a group of individuals of the same species, they belong to genera or genus. An assemblage of related order, it is what is, sorry, an assemblage of related order is class. Just see the options once. An assemblage of related order, they come under class, they constitute class. They are asking about family, a category containing all organisms of a kingdom. Okay, all organisms of the kingdom is specifically they are talking about phylums. All phylums, they are having all the organisms. If that is the question, then if all the kingdoms, they are having all the different organisms at domain level. A group of related genera, okay, group of related genera having fewer similarities than those present within the genus. Okay, so group of related genera will constitute a family. So option 4 is the right answer. Okay, next. Families are characterized based on the basis of both vegetative and reproductive features. Remember what is vegetative? The plant apart from the flower. Okay, flower ko chhod ke all the other parts of the plant, it is referred to as vegetative part. And reproductive features means what? The floral part is called as reproductive features. So families are identified based on vegetative as well as reproductive features. Which group of genera belongs to the family Solanaceae? Okay, which group? Solanaceae, it's a family because it's ending with ACA. Solanum, Petunia and Datura, these three are the genuses. These three are the genuses which comes under one family, that is Solanaceae. Panthera, Felis and Canis. Panthera, Felis comes under Felidae. Canis comes under Canidae. Mangifera, mango. Okay. Triticum aestivum, wheat. Musca domestica. They all three come under different families. Mangifera comes under Anacardiaceae. Triticum comes under Poaceae. Musca comes under Musidae. Okay. It's a animal family. Okay. Homo comes under Hominidae. Panthera comes under Felidae. Solanum comes under Solanaceae. So only group 2 come under Solanaceae is Solanum, Petunia and Datura. Remember that. Which pair of taxonomic grouping is correctly matched? Okay, let us see. Convolvulaceae and Solanaceae comes under Carnivora. No, Carnivora is a animal family order. Convolvulaceae and Solanaceae comes under Mammalia. Mammalia is a animal class. Convolvulaceae and Solanaceae comes under Polymoniales. Yes, Polymoniales is the order of plants. and Felidae and Canidae comes under Carnivora is absolutely correct. Okay. So let us see the Felidae. It's a complete different. It's a plant family and that's a animal family. These two cannot come under polymonials. Okay. So option C will be the correct answer. Moving to the next one. The categories like species, genus and families are based on a number of what? The higher, okay, mainly the species, genus and families. These three groups, they are based on similar characters. Higher the similar characters, more to a specific genus, family or species they are placed. Okay. Next. Generally, order and higher taxonomic categories, they are all based, they are all placed, they are all identified based on aggregates of characters. Aggregates of characters means we are not considering only one character, we are considering multiple characters. Okay, we are considering multiple characters and placing one particular organism at a specific higher category. So option C will be the answer. Similar characters is not an option. Okay, then dissimilar characters is not an option, floral characters is also not an option. Next, plant families like Convolvulaceae and Solanaceae are included under the order polymonials. Why? On the basis of what? On the basis of floral characters. So how the flowers are there in Convolvulaceae and Solanaceae? Based on their floral characters, based on the flowers, they are placed under order polymoniales. Remember, plant order ends with ales. So they are categorized based on floral characters. Okay. Next one, order Primata and Carnivora are included under which class? Order Primata and Carnivora. Remember, Primata is a order of human beings, whereas Carnivora is a order of Felidae and Canidae. They both are included under the class Mammalia. Insecta is a class, no doubt, but it is a class of different group. Okay, Chordata is a phylum, Animalia is a kingdom. Okay, it's a class but of different one. Mammalia is a class which is having Primata and Carnivora. Chordata is a phylum, Animalia is a kingdom. They are asking class, so the Mammalia is the right answer. Okay, next one, select the correct statement. Related animals animal classes form a phylum, while related plant families form a division. This is absolutely correct. So animals will form phylum, whereas plants will form division. We are talking from first. Animal forms a division. No, animal forms a phylum. Plant forms a division. Phylum is a category found only in plants, no, found only in animals. Division is the lowest category of plants. Species is the lowest category of plants. So the correct option is option A. Moving on to the next one. Fishes, amphibians, reptiles, birds along with mammals, they are placed under phylum Chordata. On the basis of what? We have discussed this in details, all the 5 characteristics of chordates: presence of hollow neural system, presence of notochord, presence of a post-anal tail, presence of heart on ventral side, and presence of pharyngeal gill slits. These are the 5 important characters of the phylum Chordata. Presence of open circulatory system? No. For all the chordates, the circulatory system will be closed. Okay. So the correct option is option A. Both options 1 and 2 are correct. Moving on to the next one. All animal phyla and all plant divisions are respectively included under. All animal phyla means all animal phylums, they are included under kingdom Animalia. All plant divisions are included under kingdom Plantae. Okay, so option D is the correct answer. Chordata is itself a phylum. Angiospermy is itself a division. Mammalia is a class. Dicotyledon is also a class. Animalia is a kingdom. Angiospermy is a division. So both all animal phyla, they are all included under kingdom Animalia. All plant divisions, they are included under kingdom Plantae. So option D will be the most appropriate answer. Okay, next one. As we move from species to kingdom, okay, as we move from species to kingdom, the number of similar characters, what happens to the number of similar characters? Okay, the number of common characters increase. No, definitely not. The number of common characters will go on decreasing. Okay, the number of organisms decrease. Number of organism decrease? No, number of organisms goes on increasing. The common characters decrease. Yes, the common characters goes on decreasing, and determining relationship becomes more difficult. As we go higher and higher, it becomes very difficult to establish relationship between two organisms. Okay, the members become more closely related? No, absolutely not. They become not more closely related, they become far from one another. Okay, at which category the difficulty will be greater of determining relationship to other taxa at the same level? As when we go higher the category, it will be the greater difficulty in determining relationship to other taxa. Just we discussed here, there's one point here. Okay, common characters decreases as we move from species to kingdom. Not only that, even establishing relationship becomes more difficult. So that's a continued question here. Okay, if we go on, okay, going to a higher taxa, that means from order, class, phylum or division or kingdom, it becomes very difficult to establish relationship. Okay, so at higher taxa it will be the greater difficulty to determine the relationship. Which of the following options contain both correctly matched taxonomic sequence? Let's see. Man, hominidae, absolutely correct. Hominidae, then hominidae is a family. Okay, then primata is an order. Mammalia is a class, chordata is a phylum. Okay, that's correct. Housefly, Musidae family, correct. Order is Diptera, class is Insecta, then phylum is Arthropoda. So first one is correct, but let us see for the other options. Man, Musidae, not at all. Housefly, Hominidae, they are absolutely opposite. Man, Hominidae is correct. Carnivora, no, they are coming under primata. Okay, but not carnivora. Then housefly, they are not coming under primata but order Diptera. Man, hominidae, primata, not insecta but mammalia. Okay, so again this becomes incorrect. So the correct option is option A. So remember, with respect to taxonomic categories of human beings, housefly, wheat and even mango, they are very important. You should prepare for that. Okay, which statement regarding mango and wheat is correct? Both belong to Poaceae and the order Poales. Absolutely not. Wheat belongs to Poaceae, whereas mango belongs to Anacardiaceae. Mango belongs to Anacardiaceae and order Sapindales, while wheat belongs to family Poaceae and order Poales. And both are placed under Angiospermae. This is correct answer. Okay, mango is monocot. No, it is a dicot. Okay, whereas wheat is a monocot. Mango belongs to Triticum. No, mango belongs to Mangifera. Wheat belongs to Triticum. So the correct option, which is correct here, is option B. Okay, moving to the next question. The last part, that is summary. From summary also there are few questions which we should attempt. Okay, in order to facilitate the study of kinds and diversity of organism, biologists have evolved certain rules and principles. For what purpose? Only for identifying, only for classification, or only for identification and classification, or all of these? All of these. Identification, nomenclature, classifying organism. For taxonomy in general, if we have to speak, for taxonomic purpose, all the different scientists, they have made a facility to study the different kinds and diversity of organisms. Okay, next, the taxonomic studies of various species of plants and animals are useful in agriculture. Okay, no, are useful, that was the question. Okay, this is actually the answer. I've just not erased that part. They all are useful. The taxonomic study of various species of plants and animals, they are useful to study agriculture, forestry, industries, and knowing our biodiversity, resource as well as their diversity. So to know all these, we require taxonomic studies of various species. By knowing them, we can study all these different parts. So this will be the last question. The basics of taxonomy, like identification, naming and classification of organism, are universally evolved under international codes, not Indian codes, not Latin codes, not English codes, but all of the rules, they are coming under international codes. So with this, we complete our NCERT question and answer session on the very first chapter, the living world. So if you have any doubts, you can put it in the comment section. We will try and answer. So like this, after every single chapter, we'll be coming with Q&A session. So as this was a very small chapter, this took this much time. So imagine for the chapters such as the second year chapters such as molecular basis of inheritance, the genetics, it takes a very huge time, it takes a very long time. Okay, so trying to solve these questions, every single question. So these are the only questions from which the questions may appear, because we have extracted such NCERT lines that from almost you will find that the questions will be coming from these set of questions only. Okay, so have a great time. We'll be ending the class. If at all you have any doubts, you can put it in the comment box. Okay, so if you have any doubts, you can ask it in a comment box later. If not, you can message me or DM me in the Instagram as well. Okay, so thank you. Have a great time. Until then, tomorrow we'll begin with the binomial nomenclature. Thank you.